Okay, let's start with this. Think back to a time, any time, you felt really slighted.
Hmm.
Maybe it was, I don't know, a snide comment. Someone just waved you off or you felt totally ignored. What went through your head right then? That immediate gut reaction.
Oh, yeah, that feeling of disrespect. It's such a core human thing, isn't it?
Hmm.
And it shows up in, well, so many ways. Subtle digs, outright rudeness.
Right.
And it almost always hits a nerve, triggers something strong inside.
Exactly. And that's precisely what we're digging into today. We're doing a deep dive into this, well, maybe underestimated power of staying calm when those moments hit,
Yeah,
when disrespect pops up.
yeah.
We've got some interesting stuff to look at, principles from storytelling, but also this really compelling story about a guy, Jordan, who faced this exact thing at work.
Ah,
Yeah. And our mission really is to get why choosing calm over reacting can be such a game changer.
it's kind of amazing, isn't it, how a relatively small shift in how we respond can have these, like, huge ripple effects.
Yeah.
And that story, the one about Jordan, sounds like a perfect way to see it play out.
Okay, so Jordan's story. Picture this. It's a Monday morning, raining maybe, just one of those gray days. You're dragging yourself into the office.
We've all been there.
Totally. Jordan walks in, probably just wanting coffee, and then there's Todd, this colleague Todd, who apparently likes an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Todd says, loud enough for people to hear, "Look who finally decided to grace us with their presence. Guess some people operate on a different schedule."
Oof. You can almost feel that, right?
Absolutely. That's a classic public jab.
Yeah,
It's almost designed to provoke, to, make someone defensive immediately.
yeah. And the sources we looked at mentioned Jordan's internal reaction like blood boiling, that instant urge to fire back.
That fight or flight kicking in, the adrenaline surge. Right, the instinct is just snap. But this is where it gets really interesting. Instead of giving into that, Jordan, visibly takes a moment, a breath,
Yeah.
and then just says, "Oh, morning, Todd." Totally neutral. Walks to his desk.
Okay.
And that specific choice, that moment of calm, that's the pivot point we're looking at.
And it really does highlight something fundamental, doesn't it?
Mm.
We all encounter disrespect, sort of unavoidable in life, different forms, the eye roll, the condescending tone, bad criticism.
Mm-hmm.
But the real difference maker isn't the disrespect itself. It's how we choose to respond. And the common reactions, getting angry, defensive, wanting to hit back right away, those are often just, well, impulse.
Which brings us to this key idea. Staying calm isn't weakness. It's not rolling over. It's actually a powerful display of control.
Yeah.
Because when you react emotionally, you're kind of handing the remote control for your feelings over to the other person, right? They push the disrespect button and boom, predictable reaction.
That's a great way to put it. You become almost like a predictable machine. And calmness throws a wrench in that. It disrupts the whole cycle.
How so?
Well, it shows you can manage your own emotional state. Self-regulation. It signals an awareness that, frankly, the person being disrespectful probably doesn't expect. It's what we talk about with emotional intelligence, knowing your emotions, managing them, and responding thoughtfully, not just, instinctively.
And for Jordan, this wasn't just a one-off. The story goes that Todd kept up these little jabs, these provocations over the next few weeks.
Ah, persistent.
Yeah, but Jordan stuck with it. Same calm, collected response each time. And here's the interesting part, other people in the office. They started to notice.
Mm-hmm. That consistency is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't just one good moment. It was a pattern.
Right.
And that repeated choice, that predictable composure, that's what starts shifting how everyone else sees the situation and sees him. It signals like real inner strength, maturity.
Absolutely. And this composure started having real tangible benefits for Jordan. For starters, his credibility shot up.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. Someone who stays cool when someone else is being, difficult, they just seem more malleable, more mature, like someone you actually want on your side when things get stressful.
That's a really important point about perception. In tense situations, the calm person often becomes sort of an anchor. It suggests they can handle pressure, think clearly. These are qualities we really value professionally and personally. It can even trigger, that halo effect, where one good trait makes us assume other good traits too.
And it wasn't just perception. His manager literally started giving him more responsibility, inviting him to more important meetings.
Wow.
Yeah. And colleagues started coming to him asking for his opinion. Not because he was yelling the loudest, but because he seemed grounded, thoughtful.
That really highlights the connection between, let's call them soft skills, and actually getting ahead. Sure, you need the technical skills, but navigating those office dynamics with poise, That often makes the difference for people moving up. It shows you can manage relationships, not just tasks.
And the upsides go way beyond just the job. Staying calm has these huge long-term benefits for just your life, your well-being, starting with mental health. Because being constantly reactive, stressed out, that takes a serious toll. Anxiety, burnout, all that stuff. But choosing calm, it helps cultivate, inner peace, mental clarity.
Oh, the physiology is clear on that.
Hmm.
Reacting emotionally floods your system with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, the whole fight or flight thing.
Right.
And if that system is activated constantly, over time, it's really damaging, mentally and physically.
Yeah.
Choosing calm helps kind of regulate that whole cascade, break the cycle.
And when your mind is clearer, more centered, well, you just make better decisions, don't you?
Absolutely.
You can actually look at things objectively, way different angles, instead of just knee-jerk reacting based on emotion.
Exactly. A calm mind allows for rational thought. You're less likely to make mistakes driven purely by feeling upset or angry. You can think about consequences, long-term stuff much more effectively.
Plus, let's be honest, it just makes you nicer to be around.
Huh? Yeah, that too.
People are drawn to those who make them feel safe, heard, understood. It just builds stronger relationships everywhere.
Connection really thrives on respect and emotional stability. When you respond calmly, even to disrespect, you're building a more positive dynamic. It signals you're someone who can handle tough spots with grace.
And here's one that might be a bit surprising. It can genuinely open up more opportunities.
How so?
Well, leaders, the people really making things happen, they often need to navigate chaos, right? Complexity. And the ones who can do that with poise, with grace, are often valued more than just someone who's good at arguing.
That's a crucial point. Effective leadership isn't usually about being the most aggressive. It's about influence, collaboration, guiding people through tough times. And calmness under pressure is a massive indicator of that kind of leadership potential.
It really drives home this idea that success isn't just about talent or luck. So much of it is how you respond to the challenges, the friction, the disrespect that life inevitably throws your way. It's a choice.
And it's a choice we've seen modeled by some incredibly influential people throughout history. You think about Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. They faced unimaginable disrespect, hostility. But their commitment to staying calm, to a reasoned approach, was absolutely central to their effectiveness, their legacy. It shows that real strength is often in restraint.
Such a powerful way to look at it. And circling back to Jordan, his story wraps up really positively.
Yeah.
About 6 months after that whole thing started with Todd,
Yeah.
he got promoted. Team leader.
Wow, okay.
And Todd, well, because Jordan wasn't giving him that reaction he seemed to crave, the disrespectful comments just fizzled out. They diminished, then stopped.
Didn't get the payoff.
Exactly. And even better, Jordan's consistent approach actually seemed to improve the whole vibe in the office. It had this ripple effect.
That's a perfect illustration of leading by example. He didn't have to fight Todd or get nasty. His calm resilience, that was way more effective in changing the situation and influencing the environment.
So, okay, this all sounds great, but how do we actually do it? How do we cultivate this, superpower of staying calm? The sources had some really practical tips.
Good.
One of the most basic, but maybe hardest, is just pause before you react. Take a deep breath. Count to 5, whatever works. Just give that first wave of emotion a second to pass.
That pause is everything.
Yeah.
Seriously. It creates this tiny space between the trigger, the comment, the action, and your response.
Right.
And in that space, that's where choice lives. You get a chance to decide how to respond instead of just being driven by impulse. It lets the thinking part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, catch up.
Another really useful one is reframing, actively asking yourself, okay, wait, is this really about me, or is it maybe about what's going on with them? Because often, let's face it, people lash out or act disrespectfully because of their own stuff, insecurities, bad day, whatever.
Yeah, trying to understand the why behind it can create some emotional distance. It helps you see it less as a direct personal attack and more as like a reflection of their own state. You know the saying, hurt people hurt people.
Right.
Recognizing that even if you don't excuse the behavior can really dial down your own anger.
And related to that, even practicing a little empathy can be surprisingly effective. It's not about condoning bad behavior, like you said, but just recognizing the other person might be struggling. It can stop you from escalating things.
Exactly. Empathy here isn't agreement or permission. It's just wisdom.
Mm.
It lets you respond with less defensiveness. It kind of broadens the picture, which can be disarming for everyone involved.
Now, super important point here. Staying calm does not mean being a doormat.
Absolutely. Crucial distinction, yeah.
You can still set firm boundaries. You can still address disrespect directly and assertively, but you can do it without yelling or losing your cool. It's about clear, respectful, but firm communication.
Assertiveness and calmness actually work together beautifully. A calm, assertive response shows self-respect, and honestly, it lands much better in the long run than an emotional outburst, which can just drown out your actual message.
And finally, the sources suggest taking time later to reflect, not to obsess or stew over it, but to actually think, okay, what pushed my buttons there? How did I respond? What could I maybe do differently next time? Learn from it.
That reflection piece is so important for growth. It helps you spot your own patterns, your triggers, and consciously develop better strategies for the future, turning those negative moments into, well, learning opportunities.
And like we saw with Jordan, your choice to stay calm, it doesn't just affect you, it really can ripple outwards.
Mm,
His consistent calm contributed to a better team atmosphere, better morale overall. It's almost like calm can be contagious too.
it absolutely can. Just like negativity spreads, so does composure. When one person consistently meets negativity with a measured response, it stabilizes the whole environment. It makes things feel less reactive, less stressful for everyone.
We even saw this great real-world example about a high school teacher named Sarah.
Okay.
She made a conscious choice. Never raise her voice. Even with difficult teenagers testing limits, she used silence, eye contact, calm words. And her classroom. It became this incredibly positive, productive space.
Wow.
Parents started specifically requesting her class. She ended up mentoring other teachers on her approach. It just shows the power of that quiet strength.
That's a fantastic example. It shows authority and respect don't have to come from being loud or forceful. They can be built through consistency, clarity, and genuine calm respect.
And it's fascinating when you think about the brain science underneath all this.
Yeah.
When we feel disrespected, it triggers that ancient fight or flight system. And this is the cool part, we're not just slaves to that instinct, we can choose calm. And over time, making that choice actually rewires our brain pathways. Neuroplasticity, right? Calm becomes easier, more automatic.
That's exactly it. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt. Every time you practice responding calmly instead of reacting impulsively, you're strengthening the calm pathways and weakening the react pathways. It literally becomes a learned skill, a reinforced habit.
And the payoff isn't just external, how you deal with others. It's internal, too, that inner transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Choosing calm builds this sense of self-control, deeper self-awareness. Your confidence starts coming from inside, from knowing you can handle tough situations without getting derailed rather than needing other people's approval.
It builds resilience, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And self-efficacy, that belief in your own ability to cope. You become less dependent on external stuff for your emotional state, more secure in your own capacity to navigate tricky dynamics with, well, grace and strength.
And Jordan's story really ties it all together so well. That first act of just saying, "Morning, Todd," calmly, it didn't just change his job in his office.
Right.
It actually inspired him later on. He ended up giving talks, becoming a coach on emotional intelligence, teaching others what he learned about choosing calm.
What a great outcome. It just shows how one conscious choice can ripple out, affecting not just your own life, but potentially inspiring many others too.
So, thinking about all this, the next time you feel that sting of disrespect, maybe remember Jordan. Remember Sarah, the teacher. Notice that first gut reaction.
Mhm.
And then just remember the power you have in that pause to choose calm.
Yeah. Don't give away your power. Don't let someone else dictate how you feel. Your real strength, your true power, it lies in mastering yourself, choosing your response.
Just like Jordan's whole journey started with that quiet, "Morning, Todd." Maybe your path to more peace, more influence, starts with just a deep breath, a decision to rise above it.
So maybe think about this. That last time you reacted impulsively when you felt disrespected, what might have happened differently if you'd managed to choose calm instead? What doors might open up for you as you start to really cultivate that inner strength, that resilience?